statisticians, I hope you're having a fabulous day. Welcome to Mostly Math. I'm Ashley and we mostly do math on this channel. And today we are going to cover 10 mistakes to not make on the AP statistics exam. So these 10 things will save you points. The way that they grade the AP, at least the free response, is essentially correct, partially correct, and incorrect. And so you want to get as much right as you can, even if you make mistakes along the way, you get a lot of partial credit. So, and essentially correct isn't necessarily perfect. So you have some wiggle room. So these 10 things are ways to kind of get yourself more points, even if you may not have everything perfect. So, number 1, don't say this distribution is normal unless you know for a fact that it is exactly a normal distribution. Most of the distributions that we're using are approximately normal. And so it is much safer to say approximately normal. You should use the word approximate like a lot, all the time. It's rare in statistics that you truly know for sure anything. And so even like a calculation, even if it's a correct calculation, is often rounded. So you just want to make sure that you're giving, like, stats is like information, but like with some wiggle room. So you always want to use the word approximate when you're dealing with statistics. So anytime you are talking about, and this distribution is normal, always say this distribution is approximately normal, unless you know for an absolute fact that it is actually normal. All right, number 2. Don't give up on a free response problem with multiple parts if you can't get a previous section. So say it has part A, B, C, D, and E, right? If you can't get A and B, but you could probably figure out C, D, and E, make up a number for A and B. It's totally okay. As long as it's like plausible, they're asking for probability or something, don't pick like 3.7, right? Because that's not a probability number, right? It has to be between 0 and 1. But make up a number for A and B that you use in C, D, and E, and then do C, D, and E, right? That's the difference between getting an I and a P, which is huge. It's a huge thing on the test. So make up numbers if you can't get it. I mean, obviously try to get it, but like if you're stuck and you know you can do C, just make up a number for A and B. All right. Number 3, don't write multiple formulas or equations just because you don't know which one is correct. You will actually lose, rather than gaining points for maybe having the right answer in there somewhere, you lose points for having lots of wrong answers or lots of wrong formulas. So what you want to do, if you're unsure of, I don't know, which formula to use, or maybe like you don't know if it's Z star or T star, it's okay. Like if you can do the rest of the calculation and you can do the rest of the problem, pick one, say what it is that you used, and even if it's wrong, use that number all the way through and use it appropriately. And if you just use the wrong critical value, in that case, you might get, it still might be possible that you get an E if you get everything else right on that problem. So just pick something and go with it. Even if you do like pick the wrong hypothesis test and you don't have enough time to totally redo it, like pick the wrong hypothesis test, but do it right. Because you can get a lot of points for doing everything correct, even if you chose the wrong hypothesis test. Sorry. All right, number 4. So this one, hopefully your teachers have taught you this well, or you've seen my videos and you've picked this up from every single video that I talk about hypothesis testing. Do not ever accept the null hypothesis or accept the alternative hypothesis. You cannot accept either of them. We don't know for a fact that either of them are actually true. And you're not testing whether or not the null hypothesis is true. You're testing whether or not the alternative hypothesis makes you question the null hypothesis. So all you can do is either reject the null hypothesis or fail to reject it. So you have enough evidence to say, my data is very different from the claim, and therefore I am questioning the original claim and the original null hypothesis. Or, well, yeah, my information wasn't that different, and so I guess I can't say that the null hypothesis is true, but I also can't say that it's not true. All right? Cool. Number 5, do not just give a numerical value for your free response questions. I know it can be easy when they just are like, calculate this, blah, 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 or calculate the p-value, or whatever. Answer this question. It's great if you can just get a number, but this is statistics, and statistics is all about context. So do always conclude in context and answer all of your questions with context. So if the question is about the probability of rolling a 3 on a die, right? In your answer, you should say, the probability of rolling a 3 on this die is blah, 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 blah. Or if you're doing a hypothesis test and you're talking about percentage of red M&Ms, then your answer, if you're like, say you're rejecting the null hypothesis, you would say, we have enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. And that means that we think that the percentage of, or proportion of red M&Ms in this population is not what they claim it to be. Okay, so always use context. Always talk about whatever the damn problem is asking you about. Use those words in your answer. Stats, it's like those numbers are useless without the context. Always use context. Number 6, when asked to compare two things, two distributions, two probabilities, to anythings, don't just list like the properties of one and then list the properties of the other. They're asking you to compare them. So you have to use comparison words. So that means say you're comparing the distribution of AP Stats grades versus the distribution of AP Calc grades for 2022. You would say something like, the mean of the AP Stats grade is higher than the mean of the AP Calc grades, or the AP Stats distribution is more spread out than the distribution of the AP Calc grades, right? So use comparison words: more than, less than, higher than, larger than. But if you just list what's true about one and list what's true about the other and don't actually compare them to each other, you're not answering the question, and there's no way you'll ever get full credit. So that's something that's like super small and super easy, and damn, get those points. This is a game. I know it sucks, but it's a game. You gotta play the game. Get that 5. All right. All right, number 7, don't use calculator speak all by itself. So this doesn't necessarily mean that you can't use calculator speak at all, but if you are going to use calculator talk and just say like normal CDF parentheses negative E99 comma 25 comma 15 comma 2 parentheses, right? And you just like write that and then what it equals, you'll get a P or an I. And so you want to make sure that you either include like an arrow pointing to each thing and like what it actually stands for, or show partial work like 1 + 2 + 3 plus ... plus 10 equals 55, something like that. So you're actually calculating it on your calculator, but you've written out what it is that you're doing, or you're labeling whatever is in your calculator talk as the appropriate numbers. And also, of course, including context. Always use context. Always use context. Always use context. Number 8. Don't do problem 6 last. I know problem 6 is the most daunting, and it's the longest, and it's the scariest, and it's typically the hardest. But you want to kind of be fresh for this one, and it's worth more than the rest of the problems. So problem 6 is worth 25% of the free response grade. The rest of the questions are worth 15% each. So what I would recommend doing is going through, just take 5 minutes at the beginning of the test. I know it's crunch time, but take 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of the test, read all the problems, and then circle the ones that you feel the most confident in, and then do those first, and then do 6, and then go back and do the other ones. So you have to make sure that you get 6 in there, because it is worth the most. And it is still only counted on the EPI scale, but it is worth more than all of the other problems. So really make sure you get to problem number 6. Okay, number 9. So this is about inference questions, inference procedures. So you're doing a confidence interval, you're doing a hypothesis test, you're doing, chi-square, goodness of fit, or a 2-sample t-test for the means, whatever. Don't ever just calculate the p-value or just calculate the confidence interval and then give your answer. You always have to do that full 4-step process. State what you're going to do and state your hypotheses. Plan, which is check your conditions and make sure you have all the information, make sure that you get all the conditions met. 3 is do. So make sure you do all the calculations, calculate your means and your critical values or your confidence interval. So do the actual calculations. And then the 4th step is conclude. And so that's where you take the information that you got in the do step and you conclude in context. We failed to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, we don't have enough evidence to say that blah, 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 blah. Or our confidence interval is from -33 to -22. And in the context of this problem, this means that the difference between the 2 airplanes is always negative, which means that the first one flies further than the second one, or, whatever. So always conclude in context. Okay, always do those 4 steps. Don't just calculate your p-value and conclude. All right, number 10, this is our last one. Don't come to the test unprepared. I mean, obviously you're studying, especially if you're watching this video. That means you're trying to actually do something with your life, trying to do well on this test. So don't come unprepared to the test. What that means is bring extra pencils, bring calculator batteries, or make sure overnight that you have charged your calculator, or even bring a second one if you have one. And then also make sure you know your way around your formula sheet. So I made a video, it's a little long, but it's definitely worth your time, about the formula sheet and everything you need to know about the formula sheet. So make sure you know your way around that, because it will save you time and it will definitely gain you some points as long as you know what everything means and how they're all connected. And make sure you know how to use your calculator for the really important stuff. How do you calculate the area under a normal curve? How do you calculate a confidence interval? How do you calculate, a binom CDF? Like all of those things are really, really helpful. Or doing chi-squared with the matrix, right? All of those things are super, super, super helpful and help you speed up the process in the test. And especially for the multiple choice, because you don't have to show your work, like just do it in your calculator. If you know how to do it in your calculator, do it. And that, my friends, is it. So, well, not it. Obviously, you need to study and know your information as well. But these are 10 tips that will probably save you some points and could be the difference between a 4 and a 5 or a 3 and a 4. So make sure you do that stuff. All right, good luck. Have fun. Bye.